Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Star Wars Review. So, back in probably, I think it was like 2 months ago now, a new trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu was released, and now I am finally getting around to doing a breakdown video for it. But before we do dive in, there was also a new poster released, which isn't anything special, just kind of has a close up shot of Din and Grogu. I like the other poster more than this one, but with that said, let's just dive into the trailer, which opens up with shots of X-wings flying with the sunset in the background. I think there's a similar shot like it in The Force Awakens, but then we see one landing with an R2 unit rolling on the ground, and during this, the Star Wars theme is playing, and then it cuts over to Din inside of his new Razor Crest as he's pushing all the buttons and starting the ship up. But wait, it doesn't, as Grogu is also pressing some buttons he shouldn't be. So Din grabs him and tells him to not press the buttons, and then straps him back into his seat as Din then starts up the Razor Crest and flies away. Which, like I said, the Star Wars theme was playing, and then it kind of cuts into the Mandalorian theme once the ship fully starts up and they jump off. But then it cuts over to Din and Grogu in some city. I think we saw it in the teaser trailer. Not sure where it is, but they go up to this Ardenian fry cook asking for information, which the Ardenian is more than happy with the payment Din shows him. But once Din asks for the information on a hut, the Ardanian closes up his shop and not wanting to give that information, which was a fun scene. And the Ardanian is actually voiced by director Martin Scorsese, which makes the scene even more funny to me because I wouldn't have expected him to voice a character in this Star Wars movie. That is some fun, glup shittoing. Already enjoy the Ardenian fry cook, but we then see Din and Grogu arriving at a hut lair as the door opens, revealing those two hut siblings from the book of Boba Fett, which we knew they were going to be in this movie because of the teaser poster they released a couple months ago showing them. But I think this is the first time we actually see them because I don't remember them appearing in the teaser. But we then get some shots of Imperials, all sitting at a table, which the one Imperial warlord is one of the ones we saw in The Mandalorian Season 3 during that Shadow Council scene, which, he has a big gray beard and a coat on. And, he says, "Long live the Empire," which it looks like this base is on a snowy planet, which I assume is most likely the same snow world we've seen in the teasers and a bunch of the promotional material not released so far. But during both those scenes with the Hutts and Imperials, we get dialogue from Din, calling them gangsters and war criminals. And that dialogue then continues in the next scene where Colonel Ward, played by Sigourney Weaver, is handing Din this like bounty card. It looks like a Sabak card, but I don't know, maybe it's like the bounty hunter fob thingies you saw in the TV show, but now in card form. But Din tells her that they'll take out every bad guy in her deck of cards, as Grogu then salutes her. But then there's an action shot of Din in that Imperial base taking out two snow troopers. He knocks his flamethrower and then grabs the one and makes them shoot the other. And then he shoots the one he grabbed and then starts to walk away and then just points his points his blaster behind him and shoots him again for good measure. It then cuts back to the Adelphi base where we see a UN landing and then Ward speaking with Din and Grogu, telling at least Din, Grogu's sitting there, honestly, probably not listening, but telling Din that this isn't about revenge, but about stopping another war. That dialogue was interesting. I do wonder if Din is questioning the New Republic on what they're doing, but I don't know. I don't feel like he would, so I don't know. Wonder what the context of that line is. But we then cut over to a scene of Grogu at that Imperial base, grabbing a mouse droid with the Force and then crushing it. But we then see on this like swampy, foresty world as a bunch of like droids run by this hut-looking building, and like there's big holes on the side which open up, and a bunch of ships fly out of those big holes. Which I do wonder if this could be Nal Hutta, the Hutt's homeworld. It fits what Nal Hutta is, as it's a swampy, foresty world. So it makes sense if this was Nal Hutta, but I'm not fully sure. Then there's another scene of Din telling Grogu to strap in as we see the Razor Crest jump to hyperspace. But then after that, probably two of the biggest moments from the trailer gonna play interlaced with each other. First, we see Din having an audience with those Hutt twins as a droid rips his helmet off, revealing his face, to the Hutt. So I guess once again breaking his code. But the Hutt tells Din that you will suffer, and then it will be his turn. Obviously, first meaning Din and then Grogu, but I'm not fully sure. And Din, because we see his actual face, he looks very angry at them. But like I said, there was another scene during this moment where we see a Kuzo bounty hunter arrive on Navarro at Din and Grogu's cabin, and it's nighttime and it's storming out, which the Kuzo bounty hunter looks at Grogu, who's by himself, who's very scared looking, and that's really the scene. Obviously, I'm assuming this bounty hunter is Embo, who originally appeared in the animated series Star Wars The Clone Wars, as he's the same species and he's wearing the same exact outfit, and he has a pet with him, which I'm assuming is a Anuba, as we saw him in, we saw him with an Anuba in a few of the episodes of the Clone Wars he's in, which I think his Anuba was named Marok, similar to the Inquisitor from Ahsoka season 1. Obviously it's cool to see Embo return, but he wasn't a favorite character of mine. Like it would have been a lot cooler to see Cad Bane, but kind of blew their load with him in the book of Boba Fett. Obviously, they kind of left his Cad Bane's fate a little more ambiguous. We see him get shot and most likely killed, but kind of make it seem like he wasn't. So I do wonder when or if they'll return to any of the things they set up in the book of Boba Fett. Just one, seeing Boba Fett again, but I don't know. See, at this point, I assume we will not be getting another season of the Book of Boba Fett, and obviously, this movie is going to explore more of that with these two Hutts returning. So maybe we'll get some more stuff in this movie as a kind of surprise, but I feel like it would have to really just be Boba Fett returning again. But yeah. Anyways, that's enough talking about Book of Boba Fett. Let's move on back to the trailer, which the next scene we see Grogu suiting up as he pulls his little wrist blaster thing on and his little metal armor, as we see Din telling him, if we're going into harm's way, make sure to check your armor. So, I thought that was a cute scene of him suiting up, but right after this, there was more dialogue from Din, saying that the kid will live centuries beyond me. I won't always be around to protect him. And I do wonder if that's going to kind of be a theme of this movie, is Din starting to let Grogu be independent and Grogu kind of grow to become his own person. As you know, obviously that's a Star Wars theme is the coming of age. As we've gotten, a lot of shots of Grogu either on his own or with other people who aren't Din. In fact, the next couple shots, there's one of him walking through the forest with a little walking stick, and then one of him meditating on a log. Which in the next scene we see him kind of swimming in the water, struggling, but Din then comes and rescues him. So showing that he's not that ready to be on his own yet. And there's quick shots of Din fighting what I assume is Rada the Hutt in this arena, which we saw in the teaser trailer. And then the next scene is another interesting one, kind of going back to what I just said about Grogu being on his own or away from Din, as there's a shot with this creature, person, I guess, because it speaks. Not sure what species they are, asking Grogu if he's scared, which Grogu then kind of, nods his head up and down, which was cute. But creature then says, "Well, you should be," which they seem to be in like a little hut or something in the forest. Wonder if it's that same one we saw Grogu in alone. But that moment intrigued me. But then we see Din without his helmet in the, I guess, sewers, you could say, of the hut base, facing a dragon snake, which was a cool shot, and I enjoyed that one. Then a quick scene of Din maybe asking Grogu, do we run or do we fight? Then we get quick action shots of Zeb fighting some stormtroopers, a speeder flipping up in the air on a sandy world, and then our first real close-up look of Zeb as we see him saying, "I like this kid." And then another quick shot of a ship crashing near that hut base. But then the trailer ends with this, not a long scene, but kind of a bunch of scenes kind of stitched together where we see a Mantelian Savrip kind of break free from this building. And we see a Rhodian baby scared as their mother removes them from their stroller and runs away, which we then see Grogu and Din finding the stroller, and Grogu jumps in it and they speed off as Din then uses his jetpack and they chase after the Mantelian Savrip, but maybe they're going after something else because they speed past the Mantelian Savrip. So I'm not really sure if that's what they're going for or they're going for someone else. I don't know. But then the trailer actually does end with another scene as we see Din taking a pack of cookies away from Grogu, telling him that he can save the rest for after dinner. And then Grogu makes a little disapproving noise as he eats the one cookie he did get. But that's everything from the trailer. I don't know if we'll get another trailer sometime now this month in April, maybe early May. I do think there's probably been TV spots already, but I assume closer to the release of the movie we'll get more and more TV spots where we'll probably have a couple new scenes here and there. So, yeah, but, still kind of don't really know what the movie's fully about, other than Din and Grogu hunting down Imperials, and also the Hutts are involved. And, I'm not really sure if Din is going to the Hutts for their help or what. I don't know. Obviously, the movie is still set to come out May 22nd, 2026. So it's only just about a month away now from when I'm actually recording this. So yeah, but obviously, if more stuff comes out before the movie, I'll definitely talk about it in other videos. But for now, you can check out my other breakdown I did for the teaser and all my other Mandalorian videos on the Disney Plus series and everything else I do. But it's been Star Wars Review, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
It's beyond me. I won't always be around to protect him.
Are you scared? You should be.
Do we run? Or do we fight?
I like this kid.